August the 14th, 1981, New York City. Dominic Sonny Black Napolitano, a captain in the Bonanno crime family, walks into the Motion Lounge Bar in Brooklyn. He hands the barman the keys to his apartment, a large bundle of cash, and the diamond-encrusted rings from his fingers. He tells the barman he's going to a meeting and doesn't know if he's coming back. The meeting is in the basement. Sonny Black was killed because he had brought a spy, Donnie Brasco, into the inner sanctum of the mafia. He was really Special Agent Joe Pistone.
Did I want to see him get killed? No. Would I rather have him gone to jail? Yeah.
Thanks to Pistone's 6 years undercover, over 200 mobsters will be convicted. And one of the biggest mafia families brought down. It was the most successful undercover operation in FBI history.
All right, welcome to the show here. That was our intro. We're going to be playing some more. Now, today, Gene and I are going to enlighten you guys on a lot of things that happened with the Bonanno family. As you guys are fully aware, Gene Borello was, I almost said was the Bonanno family by the time he was around. Gene Borello was the Bonanno family, but but if you go back, you look, there was a few key events and key things that happened which led to the atmosphere that put Gene on the map during the time that he was around. What's up, Gene? How you doing today, buddy?
Hey, what's going on, man?
Oh, same old, just having a great day, and always happy, always doing well. Make sure you sub to this channel. This channel is going to be the main one because we found out, despite the great numbers, by the way, on the other channel, that channel still has one of those shadow things associated with it. So this one doesn't. So this one's going to be the one that we push because we could see the numbers clearly went where they should have gone with a guy like Gene on, and a little bit of me being on too, but mostly Gene, of course. So anyhow, today we're going to be getting into, ultimately Bruno Indelicato, who is still alive. He just recently got out of prison, but we're going to start off by giving you guys the context of where the Bonanno family, where they were in the 70s, leading up to the era that led to Tommy Karate, led to Bruno Indelicato, led to Gene Borello, and the other Joe Massino, who was the one individual who survived the Operation Donnie Brasco case. And so we're going to be giving you some context. And Gene, at any point when I'm playing some of the documentary stuff, if you need me to pause it, you can just say pause or just lift your hand up. I'll see that way, just in case I don't hear you. Real quick shout outs to our fans here. La Señorita. Hey, La Señorita. We love that name, La Señorita. You even have the squiggly line above the end. So, And then we've got J802. We like this guy. He's definitely one of ours. And if you guys would like to cash up, since this channel isn't monetized, obviously you can hit up Mobster Entertainment. Gene and I split these up, of course. Without further ado, though, we'll go ahead and play some more of this. Now, this is the beginning. This is showing Sonny Black, who was a famous captain in the Bonanno family back in the day. And he and others were involved with a power play in the late 70s related to Carmine Galante, a guy who was a major trafficker and a major guy who was trying to get in on the power, while Rusty Rosselli, who was the Bonanno official boss, was in prison. Sonny Black and others orchestrated a takedown of Galante. And you'll see the context of everything and how it leads to Bruno and Delicato. And then Gene, of course, and I will offer you some context. And also you're going to hear some more debunking of myths. One of the myths that we debunked in the last few shows. Hey, what's up, Darren? My buddy. That's right. Darren, good to see you. Another a guy from Florida, similar to where Gene's at. But we've already debunked. One myth is that somehow women or any really family members in general of mob guys thinking that they know who knew their dad or knew this guy. These guys didn't know my father. They don't know. They don't know. The fact of the matter is, even John Gotti, as we proved, didn't even know the majority of the Gambino family the day that he became boss.
Right.
Johnny A-Light says that he knew and was close with Senior. Only Senior and A-Light and maybe a few others would even know that. And there's anybody who tries to say, "Oh, he didn't know my father," or he didn't. They're nonsense. They have no clue. They're debunked. They're making that stuff up just because they're upset with whatever. But carrying on, this is our show. And what we're going to be doing right now is we are going to get moving with things. Darren, Florida via Brooklyn Bay Ridge, Gravesend. So you know where that is, I'm sure, Gene.
Yes.
Infamous place. So here we go. We're carrying on. This is circa 1975 or 76, right when I was barely in a crib, literally in a crib. And during this time period is when they had their issues that led to this modern era. Donnie Brasco infiltrates them. And it starts off, as you'll see, the original goal of the Brasco case was simply to catch truck hijackers, and it evolved from there. So here we go.
But the operation that would one day bring down the mafia would start on a far smaller scale. In 1976, New York was facing a wave of truck hijackings.
These loads were sometimes worth $200,000-300,000. And the mob guys would hijack the truck, stick the truck up, take it, and then sell it to fences.
The FBI decided to initiate an undercover operation to target these fences in an effort to stem the flow of hijackings. They selected Joe Pistone for the operation. Pistone had racked up extensive undercover experience over his 15 years as an FBI agent. In 1976, he left FBI headquarters with a new ID as Donnie Brasco. Unaware he would not return for over 6 years. Now, his job was to find a way to infiltrate the hijackers.
You don't just walk into a place and say, "Hey, I'm Donnie Brasco, jewel thief. I want to start doing business with you." It doesn't work that way.
All right, I'm going to pause it right there. He's absolutely right. When I was involved with the pot business, sometimes connections that I had would just disappear. Guys would get spooked by stuff. They'd vanish. Some guys arrested, whatever. And I'd have to start from scratch. And you don't just walk in and say, "Hey, I'd like to buy 20 pounds of weed off you. And then we'll move up to 50 and then 100. You don't go up to the dude that sells $20 bags and, Gene, you know how it is. When you're dealing with these guys, it's not like you just knock on the door. "Hey, what's up, buddy? I'd like to go ahead and, do this with you, do that criminal stuff."
Well, the thing is that also Donnie Brasco was exaggerated. He wasn't involved in a lot of things that he said he was. When they chopped the bodies up in the basement, there's no way that he was there. That's impossible. He had nothing to do with that, but they made it look like he did. That was complete bullcrap. Because they would have had to stop the mission right there. You know what I mean? And then get the bodies. So that's impossible. A lot of things, like I said, he did come around. He was around with lefty guns, giving him money, but he wasn't as involved as he was in the beginning. I think he progressed and started earning money, but he didn't just walk up to them and get in like that. You know what I mean? It basically he got in the right way. But a lot of his stuff was exaggerated. He didn't do a lot of stuff that he said he did, you know?
Yep. And we're going to be debunking a good portion of the Donnie Brasco movie, by the way, because a
Right.
lot of that was changed around. And unfortunately, there's people who believe a lot of the movie stuff, and then they assume when they hear guys like us explaining how it really worked and how it was different than that, they start, well, that's not what happened in the movie, though. And I know,
Right.
because it's Hollywood. Hollywood made it up. That's why
Yeah, Hollywood got a hold of it. Yeah.
they've got a habit of doing that. So, but he is right that the way he got started, he spent literally 6 months, he'll say it right here, going to the bars and stuff to get himself known at least.
The plan was we had certain bars and restaurants that we knew these guys hung out in. And the idea was for me to frequent these places and get my face seen, get known, and hopefully become engaged in conversation.
It would take many months until people trusted the new face as a local.
Well, the first 6 months I would just hit these different restaurants. Some were up in the Upper East Side, some were down in Little Italy. I mean, they were basically all in Manhattan.
Finally, after 6 months of targeting the bars of Manhattan, Pistone thought that his face had become familiar enough. And he decided to try his luck with a barman whom he suspected had criminal connections.
Come in one night and, hey, Donnie, how you doing? Okay. We start talking, and I had a package of diamonds. And I said, I need X amount of money for these. Say $10,000. As an undercover, you got to know what the street price of stuff is we call swag. You know, the difference of buying these diamonds at Tiffany's than buying off somebody in the street. And he didn't say a word. He just picked it up, put it in his pocket. After about 2 weeks, I come in one night. He said, somebody left this for you. It's an envelope. I pick it up. And the money's in there.
It was the payment for the jewels. This was the first important step in establishing Pistone's credibility as the criminal, Donnie Brasco.
Now he knows it. You know, I mean, I don't have to spell it out to him that I'm a jewel thief, you know. And it went from there.
Over the next few months, the barman started to invite Donnie out, introducing him to numerous contacts.
The place we went to were all after-hours joints, you know, gambling after hours. And he would introduce me, you know, just as Donnie.
Pistone was being introduced as Donnie Brasco to all sorts of shadowy people. But one introduction in particular will become very significant. The man was known as Jilly. That was not only a fence and a truck hijacker, but was what the mob called a made guy.
Made, straightened out, good fellow, wise guy. All those terms mean the same thing. You've been officially inducted into a particular mafia family.
Now news that Pistone was directly involved with a made mafia member changed the entire nature of the operation. The FBI seized the opportunity and encouraged...
Real quick pause here. I have a little bit of experience with the FBI and the DEA's intelligence into where they take advantage of opportunities. When a group of my friends were hit in 2005 in a big marijuana bust out here, and once the DEA took down all the Mexican suppliers, they saw that there were white dudes that were moving high grade from, you know, like the really expensive bud, and started a second and a third phase, and they targeted a bunch of my bros. And originally they had no clue who some of my friends were, but once they saw that opportunity, you better believe, Gene, you know this firsthand too. If the feds are after one guy and then they happen to notice something, they will take their resources and aim it at you too.
Of course, they never stop. It's just the ongoing. The more they could get, they love it. You know what I mean? Whatever comes their way, they don't care. If a little fish gives them they want the little fish to give them the big fish. You know how that goes.
Absolutely, absolutely. The feds are relentless, and they again, they're very smart.
Pistone to get in with Gilly and his crew. Pistone used all that he had learned at the FBI to convince them that he was a jewel thief, but they wanted to see the spoils of his crimes.
You have to be an earner, you know. They're not taking me in because they like my looks, you know. You have to see that I have the ability to make money.
Suddenly, Pistone needed to get hold of a lot more jewelry from his supposed robberies.
Any jewelry that I brought around came from the FBI. It was confiscated jewelry that we got from U.S. Customs. You know, there was jewelry that was confiscated. Other times I would bring around watches.
As Pistone began handing over more and more jewelry, it seemed that he was convincing them that he was a genuine thief. But then, some of the gang members started asking for his help in their own robberies. Breaking into homes, something he was reluctant to do as an FBI agent.
They'd ask me, you know, can you get by this alarm? Can you get in? You know, a couple times I said, no, I can't bypass that alarm system.
Not good.
I can't get into this place. I can't do this safe. And they got mad.
Pistone was called to a meeting by Gilly at his club with two other gangsters, Frankie and Patsy.
They locked the door. Patsy puts his gun on the table and he said, you know, Donnie, he says, unless you convince me that you're a really great jewel thief, he said, the only way you're going out of here is rolled up in that rug.
The only way you're going out here is rolled up in that rug. Gene?
Yeah.
That's a New York thing right there, by the way, because you guys have so many people in one area. If you're going to have to carry someone out, it's not like it's the countryside or rural. You got to,
Right.
that rolled up in a rug thing.
Yeah, that's real. Roll them up in a rug. I heard.
Gene, I don't know about you, Gene, but if I lived where you did and somebody said, hey, we need to chat with you and we want you to stand on this rug in our basement.
That's no thing. Yeah. Roll them up in a rug.
You're probably it's probably what you're gonna. Here's a question real quick before we go to the second video, because this is the end of the first part here. So from Darren C4, hey Gene, were you on record with VA or RG? They were both skippers. If you borrowed 10K, what would they charge you? Points like 1.5, 2 points. Go ahead and answer that.
Yeah, I was with them both. Technically, I was on record with Ronnie, but when Ronnie went to jail, I answered the VIN. So, I mean, and they shared a crew anyway, but I was with them both, you could say. But if you borrow 10,000, I would get it at 1 point because I was in their crew. So I would get it at 1 and lend it at 2 or 3. So I would get it at $10 on every 1,000 would be $10.
There you go. From the man himself here. All right, here we go.
Eventually, Gilly, convinced by Pistone's performance, called a halt to the meeting.
Just so you guys know,
Somebody
Brasco was in that meeting for 5 hours being questioned about who did you know in Florida? Because remember, if you watch the movie, one of his backstories to the mob in New York was that he grew up in an orphanage and then he lived in Florida, knew some wise guys down there, that kind of thing. And so they're like, hold on, who did you know? If they don't believe you or you do something that's kind of suspicious, like not helping them with robberies when you claim you're a robber, if you're saying you're breaking into jewel places and then all of a sudden I don't know how to, get around this alarm, that raises alarms with them and they're going to ask you everything, right, Gene?
Absolutely. That's going to raise major red flags. You know what I mean? You're saying you're a jewel thief. They're asking you to do it. You don't know how to do it. That doesn't make no sense at all. You know what I mean? I think everybody's radar would be up.
Absolutely. Absolutely. If someone in my area or, had told some of the mission guys, no, I don't know how to I don't know how to package marijuana to be shipped.
Right.
How do you do? I don't know how many bricks fit in a duffel bag.
Right.
Then you're going to be in big trouble. All right, here we
Well,
go.
the problem is
Right.
they were just greedy. They were hoping he knew how to steal. You know what I'm saying? They just want them. They just want money. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
That's the problem.
yeah. He played on that too. So did the FBI.
Calls you out in the street, you got to be mad. And the only thing they're going to understand here is some kind of force. So I hit Frankie. As he jumps on me, he starts punching me, starts beating me. But I can't do anything because he's a made guy. Can't hit a made guy. That's a penalty of death. So I just keep hitting Frankie. Then finally break it up.
So real quick,
Believing
Gene,
Pistone was the real deal, Chili introduced
before he
himself.
introduces him to Lefty. So, Gene, let's say you had been called out or something, right? And
Yeah.
there's two made guys there and one non-made. Would you have done the same thing and just start smacking the non-made guy to show them that you got called out for the wrong reason and you're pissed?
I mean, I don't believe that story about him.
Okay.
I don't believe he did that at all. Unless he was hit first, he's not gonna just get up and crack somebody. They would have left him for dead in there because he's not even with them. They basically don't even know him like that. They would have
Okay.
beat him to death probably, especially in that era. With me, I was told if a May guy puts their hands on you, hit them back. Don't let nobody hit you. So that's what I was told. You know what I mean?
There you
I
go.
wouldn't hit them first, but if they put their hands on me, I was told by Ronnie and Vinny, you hit them back. Nobody's punks here. You can't hide behind your shield. You can't, just because you're a wise guy, you can't go around hitting people and not expect, for no reason. You know what I mean?
Yeah, there you go. So here we go. Another myth debunked. And again, Brasco got to tell the story the way he wanted to, and that's
There's no way. There's no way he did that scene. That's bogus.
All right, there we go.
Some major figures from another mafia family, the Bonannos. First, he met Tony Mira.
Tony Mira was a major drug dealer. One mean guy. He was the type of guy, he just abused everybody, but he made tons of money for the family.
And with this guy, real quick, with Mira, Tony Mira, what's up, Izzy? Izzy's from my town, reformed ex-gang member or whatever. So, Izzy, keep up your good work. But this guy here, Tony Mira, was working with Carmine Galante and others, and they were trafficking from California marijuana, and they were moving heroin from French Connection stuff too.
They were moving heroin. Yeah.
They were moving tar, and then they were moving marijuana from California with the mobsters out here and Mexican contacts that they all had, because we were always friends with Mexicans. We always got along with them. They were our bros. That's how we saw it. And we all worked together. So here we go.
Through his drug dealings.
And Mira introduced him to Lefty Ruggiero, a hitman who had a reputed 23 killings to his name.
The guy that he's with right there is Mike Savella, by the way, who was originally Lefty's captain until Sonny Black got the job after the Carmine Galante hit. So in the movie, they portrayed him as they said Sonny got upped, in that one scene. It was Mike Savella was taken down. And firsthand from your experience, Gene, that captains can be demoted, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. It has to be a good reason, though. Can't just, demote them.
Yeah, definitely. Rule violations, stuff like that.
Yeah, you can't just, do that. Very disrespectful.
Right.
Lefty Ruggiero was what I would call 24-hour gangster.
24-hour
He was
gangster,
on
Gene.
being a gangster every minute of the day.
Through Mira and Ruggiero, Pistone was able to shine a torch on the inner workings of a mafia family, something that the FBI, until then, had known surprisingly little about.
All right, so I'm going to pause
He
it
could
there,
recount.
and here's why. Remember the Valachi situation, right? How he had those charts and he said he knew this guy and this boss. That was all made up. The FBI made those charts and then they told Valachi who these guys were and told him to say in front of Congress, we know I know this guy, that guy. The reality is, and Gene, you can vouch for this, most of us only know the guys that we grew up with or in our crew or immediately above us. We don't know the names of most of the other guys involved, right?
Right. You might have heard of them. You know what I'm saying? Doesn't mean you know them or, even know what they look like, but you might have
Yes.
heard of them. You know what I mean?
And most of the time back then, we were introduced by our street names too. Not our, it ain't like you went around saying, yeah, hey, I'm Gene Borello, and this is my social security number. This is my
Nah.
driver's license number. And
Right. Yeah, exactly.
let's go do a home invasion together now that you know all my info. That wasn't like that.
No.
It wasn't like that. We were introduced based on our street names and things like that.
Right.
To us who was in, who was out. He could recount what rackets they were involved in. He could recount what's coming up in the future. The people he was involved in were particularly vicious. Who was going to kill who or who was on the outs.
In 1978, the operation had a major breakthrough. Tony Mira was jailed for drug trafficking. And Lefty Ruggiero seized an opportunity to cash in on Pistone's skill.
Now, here's another pause moment. So you can see right there, everybody thinks there's lots of loyalty in the mob. But what happens the moment that, Tony Mira he got arrested by the New York authorities. So he got taken out of a federal case by being arrested and put in jail. That's
Right.
one way to, the FBI don't need to surveil you at that point. But
Right.
truth is, what did Lefty do? Lefty said, hey, he's in jail, so I'm going to swoop up on Donnie Brasco's freaking earnings, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Not a lot of loyalty.
And that was the best scenario for them because that he was Lefty Guns was way more involved and important than Tony Mira, so it was great. He got involved in that crew. It was crazy,
Yeah, exactly. Mira was involved with the drug stuff and everything, but because of the rules of the mob claiming they were against it, Mira didn't, he wasn't as, Lefty was much better known because of his reputation. He was more involved with bookmaking, gambling, and pulling hits.
And killing people.
As a good earner and made him an offer he couldn't refuse. Pistone would operate exclusively under Lefty as his partner. And critically, Lefty was part of a crew run by one of the most powerful captains in the Bonanno family, Dominic Sonny Black Napolitano. Pistone was now hanging out daily with Sonny Black at his social club, the Motion Lounge in Brooklyn.
The average day in the life of a wise guy is not as exciting as you might think. You might meet up at 10, 11 o'clock in the morning. You hang out at the social club all day, and, your conversation is about what you're going to rob, what you're going to steal, who's stealing from you, how much money you're making in this operation, how much money you're making in that operation. It's a steady grind every day.
I'm going to pause it there. This is one thing that I think Brasco got right. That's the image is that there's always this excitement and this and that. Most of the time, it's the same thing, bro, where it's every day, he said 11, 12. I might have been getting up closer to 1 p.m. because of how late I was going to sleep back then. I was going to bed at 4 a.m. So I might be up by 1 p.m., let's say. But the whole time it's more like you're thinking about the next score. You guys had social clubs. I out west, I wasn't hanging out in social clubs. We had the corners and whatever else, and we hung out and did our thing. But where you were at, that's pretty much the life, right? Where
Well, I had my own club, but there was before I had my own club. Everybody, there's always a club to go to, and like I said, he's right. Every day you're plotting and scheming, and just figuring out the rackets. Maybe you got your collecting list, sports betting. It's always about the street and always about what's going on with us making money. Plotting a robbery, doing scores. He's right every day. That's what you do. Wake up, go there, hang out all day, and just plot and scheme. Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. So carrying on to the next part here. Move on.
Thanks to Pistone, the FBI were in a position they had never anticipated. They had an agent as an active member in a major crew in the New York Mafia. Pistone was now even better placed to gather material on a wide range of Mafia activities.
At this stage, I was gathering a lot of intelligence information, drug deals, extortion, hijacking, political corruption, politicians, law enforcement people that were corrupt. So it was a myriad of.
So, like he said, he was gathering information on lots of stuff because, again, the FBI really didn't know a lot of what they claimed they knew, right?
Well, and also you got to understand this guy's got to be nervous because technology in the '70s is not how it is now. He's wearing a tape recorder and a fucking wire on him. You know what I'm saying? So, you know what I mean? Like, it's not exactly like great technology here where he's really rolling the dice. You know what I mean? He really is.
Yeah, they exactly. That's funny, bro. Because back then, with how big anyone who was alive back then knows how bulky TVs were, tape recorders.
Anything.
Imagine
Motherfuckers. He's rolling the dice, this guy. Hell yeah. Absolutely.
having to carry that stuff, All right. So.
Of information.
Pistone's intelligence was helping the FBI build a much clearer picture of not just how the Bonanno family was run, but the whole Mafia. The various Mafia families were in fact cooperating with each other.
This was not a monolithic organization. These folks were working together. They might have been individual families that, for work purposes and for power purposes, but in the scheme of things, they were working together, sharing these criminal activities.
Yeah, he's right. Now, obviously, Gene, there's times where they didn't work together.
Right.
And when would they typically work together? I would imagine it would have to do with things where there's a union they both want to be involved with, that kind of thing, right?
Unions, fish market. I mean, you name it. Everything. They're all gonna have a piece of it. And most of us are friends with each other. It's just you could grow up with somebody. He could be your best friend, but he ends up going with the Gambinos, but you're Bonanno. So now you work together. You know what I'm saying? That happens like that all the time. But when it comes down to beef, you will go with your own. Don't get it twisted. When it comes down to it and you got to fight, you're going to go with your own. That's going to happen. Your family, that family, that's when you divide. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right.
And Pistone's success was not limited to just the Mafia in New York. With his strong credibility, he could now vouch for other undercover agents and instigate connections with other Mafia families, as far away as Los Angeles.
There's another one too that in the movie they didn't show, they didn't show the full extent of his operations either. That once he got in good with these guys, he was able to get at other families the further he got up. Now, a lot of that, Gene, was the FBI telling him to approach Sonny Black or whoever else with opportunities to network, and then them doing it, right?
Absolutely. That was the plan. They wanted it to keep going, get to the top. You know what I mean?
Get to the top. Absolutely. And so in that world, that meant getting to the, getting as many high level guys on photograph, taking pictures with one another and stuff like that. And of course, with the feds back then, all you really had to do was shake hands with a made guy or someone important, and you
Right.
probably would get convicted, huh?
Right. You're indicted. 100%. It was so bad. You're right. You ain't lying.
Yeah, you just say hello, and all
Yeah.
of a sudden,
You're an indictment. Yeah, 100%.
there's a lot of those RICO cases, contrary to popular opinion. You look at the list of defendants, and people are like, I don't know. They don't know 95% of the other names that are on there, or they
All you
might have
gotta do, all you gotta do is pick up a phone call, and get fucking jail time with that shit. It's so crazy. They'll put you conspiracy to that so fast, man. It's bad. I'm telling you that those laws are crazy. Like I said, they're bad with that shit.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. All right. Cameron on here. So
In Milwaukee,
he got guys busted in LA.
he was so successful, he even managed to set up a face-to-face meeting with the mob boss there. The first time,
And that was Frank Balistreri, who was the boss of Milwaukee for many, many years. That's him. That his two sons, I think, were lawyers technically, but the FBI probably said they were under bosses in consigliere too, right?
Right.
They didn't care about that law degree or
There you
any
go,
of that.
Yeah.
And Frank Balistreri, of course, also had interest in Las Vegas. He was involved with a lot of the casino stuff with the Chicago outfit. All those guys, the New York guys had some action in Vegas too.
Right.
And Frank, here's a little side note too with Frank in this Brasco case. Balistreri was one of the only ones that suspected that Pistone was an FBI agent, and the reason being was there was a guy that was close to the Balistreris, and I believe I forgot what his name was, but he was an FBI agent, and they discovered that guy was a Fed, and so when Pistone vouched for him, saying we were old friends, they assumed Pistone was a Fed. But you know what Balistreri did? He didn't tell anybody. They just told what happened was they told Brasco and the other guy that, hey, whatever we were going to do, the deal is off.
Right.
And what happened was Mike Sabella didn't know why, because this is before Sonny Black was lefty and
Right.
and Joe Pistone's captain. Sabella had no idea why on earth did they get spooked, and Balistreri never said what happened, and so they just cut the deal off, and Balistreri was one of the few that actually figured out that he was a Fed, but he didn't dare say it to anybody else because he figured it would get recorded.
an FBI agent had sat down with such a high-ranking mobster. In Florida also, the FBI had been attempting to infiltrate the mafia. They had set up a club, the King's Court, which they had hoped would be a beacon for Florida's mobsters.
Now, in the movie Donnie Brasco, they had that King's Court. The King's Court, they claimed was raided on opening night. That's not the truth. It was going on for quite a while, as you'll see, before that particular raid happened. And so, moving on here.
Pistone saw a way to help the operation by suggesting that Sonny Black become a partner in the club. The idea appealed to Sonny, and he sent Pistone and Lefty to Florida to check it out. Pistone now discovered that, like many city-wise guys, Lefty had hardly ever left his New York borough.
Everybody thinks that mob guys are so worldly and they know everything. I mean, they're really parochial, and Lefty was no different. Had no idea how to make a claim reservation. because a lot of time, most of the time, when they wanted to go somewhere, the plane tickets were, back in the day before the computers, they were stolen, from travel agents.
He's got a point. Back in the day, they didn't have to learn to make. It's kind of funny. They didn't have to learn to make, reservations for flights
Right.
because they used to just steal the freaking tickets, bro.
That's funny.
They used to just steal the tickets, and from travel agents or whatever, like Brasco said,
Yeah.
and they. So, and that's another thing. A lot of these guys are mainly familiar in their own neighborhood. Right? You're known, not you specifically, but a lot of the mob guys. They're known for the block they're from in New York and the area they're from.
The area, the neighborhood, yeah.
And same thing, with the other cities. They're known for, whatever particular crew and area they're from. Now you take guys like John A. Light, one of our friends.
Right.
He's traveled all over. He probably knew more about the world than a lot of the average LCN guys did.
Right.
They just he a guy like A Light travels quite a bit. And the truth is that a lot of the guys, since most of their rackets were right there in their neighborhood, they didn't really have to go anywhere else. Most of the time, what they do, they did their stuff there. All right. So carrying on to here to the next one. So, because this is about the end, and we got to be careful because YouTube will start hating and pausing the streams on some of this stuff. But all these videos had passed through their copyright system before, but I got to be careful playing too much of it at once. But so we'll pause it a little bit more on this one. So Brad, this right here is where they're starting in Florida at the King's Court. What's up, John?
You there?
Yeah. I like I'll tell you, I love that name, Santo Trafficante. I don't know what it is, but if you get, that's like one of the coolest Italian names ever. What's up? I'm Santo Trafficante. That's Italian dudes in general. You guys got some cool names. Just the way they sound. Santo Trafficante. I am the saint of trafficking. You can pray to me if you'd like to pray for a good trafficking trip.
Is it go? You got to put the video back on?
Yeah. Is it playing?
No.
Hang on real quick. Hold on here. Let me, how's this? There we go. Now we're
from the club. Trafficante agreed to the deal.
There we go. All right.
The FBI had the back office of the King's Court fully installed with
and that's what happens. You accept the deal from what's ultimately an FBI front, and you're going to find out that they have
phones and cameras.
Wired for sound and cameras.
The King's Court was wired for audio and video, but it was only in the office.
Of course, the old equipment there that Gene and I were joking about earlier.
Yeah.
It's even got knobs on it still.
Regular people who didn't know it was an FBI operation.
Stone and other undercover agents started to stage drug.
Now, this is the back office, and Pistone and the others, what they started doing was having drug deals and other stuff happening at the King's Court. And obviously, most of the time they talked about it in the office, specifically because of the recording.
Deals with mafia mobsters there.
It looks like he's pointing to a brick of blow right here.
It definitely is.
I think that's That's probably a key.
Yeah.
And he says flat out, with this here, I can walk anywhere I want in this effing town. And he was
Yep.
probably right.
It was a gold mine of intelligence for the FBI. But for the Bonannos, it was a major money-making operation.
And that's another thing too, is even though it was an FBI front, because it catered to lots of regular folks, the King's Court made bankrolls.
And Sonny Black loved it.
Every time you went to the club, it was packed. I mean, it was a big hit among the locals, you know, and every.
And so there we go. Pause again. So all these so-called illegal things, right, Gene? But the public loves it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know, like I said, back then, you know, everybody they didn't care who was a criminal because a lot of the cops were crooked. You know, everybody was on payroll back then. It was so different. You know what I mean? So much of it. There's no cameras, no technology like there is now. So everybody, it was the free for all back then, you know? Literally.
Yeah, absolutely. And since it's, it's illegal gambling. Nowadays, all of the stuff at the King's Court is pretty much legal darn near everywhere. The government gets its cut now. And so, like Pistone even says himself, the place was a hit with the locals.
But what in there was a citizen, you know.
So basically, they're doing something that the citizens want.
So the club was making money.
Nothing like this had ever been done before.
Now, for a problem, Tony Mira, when he went away for running drugs, it was only a couple of years. Keep in mind, back then,
Right.
the sentences weren't nearly as tough as they are now in the drug war. This was back when you could still get a couple of years for moving weight.
Right.
Now based in Florida, on trips back to New York, Pistone would even stay at Sonny's house.
Another thing, one thing about Sonny Black was that he loved those racing pigeons. He loved it. He raised pigeons. He knew all about them. That was like, it's kind of funny, Gene, that a lot of these guys can't stand other people, but they took care of animals though.
Right. Yeah. We're all like that. We love animals. We don't like people. So true.
With dogs, cats, birds,
Right.
you name it. Every mobster had their favorite animal. They probably didn't like most people though.
And they would spend hours feeding Sonny's racing pigeons on his roof.
I got to know Sonny Black pretty good, and although he was a stone cold killer and a gangster, Sonny was the kind of guy you could spend time with.
And so what he means is that he's the kind of dude that you could shoot the shit with. Like Gene, obviously you probably enjoy back in the day talking about scores, and counting money was probably one of your favorite things to do.
Yeah, we conversate all kinds of shit. Yeah, we all talk amongst each other and everything, you know what I mean? So we hang out. There was a few gangsters like that we answered to that were cool to hang out with, you know?
Yeah. My main guy that I had met from back there, most of the time when he'd come to California, we would just shoot the shit about the hot chicks that, and go to bars and hang out. And, we would obviously talk about our dealings and what we wanted to do the next time out, so we wouldn't have to say things on phones, especially interstate phones back then.
Right.
But most of the time, we'd bullshit about politics or what's going on in the world, or bullshit about whatever. It was just a lot of people think that all mobsters and gangsters do is just chat about gangster stuff all day. That's not how it is.
I mean, he would talk about the gambling, the drugs, who's the power in the family, but you could also have other conversations with him. He loved those pigeons. Like I said, we go up every morning and he'd feed them, and change their water.
And the reason why, obviously, that I got Michael Madsen right here is because in the movie, that's who played
Right.
Sonny Black. He did a pretty good job with it. Michael, as a general rule, I like Madsen's acting in these movies.
Right.
I had told the FBI guys, when those pigeon coops come down, you can say goodbye to Sonny Black. You know he's gone.
And that was true. Ultimately, as you'll see here, we've got a couple more parts after this one. You'll see they took down his pigeon coops after he went.
Pistone's close relationship with Sonny Black now gave him even more access to information within the mafia. He discovered that one faction of the Bonanno family, recent Sicilian immigrants known as Zips, were enormous drug importers.
So you would know this better than me. We'll pause it there. They called the guys from Sicily and Italy itself. The name is Zip, right? I don't mean to be derogatory. I'm of Irish descent, and no way am I dissing Italians or Sicilians. Explain that.
They know that. It's just a term. It's a term. It's a term of a zip means it's not a bad term. You know what I mean? It doesn't it's not a racist term. They call them zips. The American Italians don't even get along with the ones from Sicily, from over there. We don't even like each other usually. You know what I mean? Because they don't like the way we operate. We don't like the way they operate, and that's usually how it goes. But yeah, we call them zips.
Yeah, there's a similar relationship, by the way, between Mexicans from California that were born here versus Mexicans from Mexico. There's a right. They have a very similar kind of thing with them. They'll do business with them, but there's still like they're from this culture. We're from this culture.
Right.
We're Americans. They are from Mexico itself, and
Right.
there's a difference.
They used a series of pizza restaurants to distribute the drugs.
The Zips were Sicilians brought over to run the pizza.
Now, just so you guys know, the Zips were brought in by Carmine Galante, as you'll learn here in the next one, the next set of clips. But he brought them in. You'll see why. He had a different opinion of them versus American mafioso. His view was that Zips were more traditional, whatever. And he thought as though they would protect him. And you'll find out later that they did not protect him.
The shops that they had all over New York and Pennsylvania. And not only to distribute the heroin, but to use these zips for murders.
And that's another thing. One of the reasons why they brought them in was because Zips did not have criminal records in the United States. And so that was another reason why they were brought in sometimes to do stuff, because the cops
And no one knew who they were. They were running from, you know what I mean? They could, walk right up to you.
Exactly. And the cops in New York didn't have, they wouldn't have records necessarily and things like that. So it was to their advantage of the mob to bring guys in.
Right.
Anything else that they needed from them.
Based on Pistone's information, the FBI launched a major investigation into the Zips pizza restaurant drug trade. But they couldn't act on it immediately.
Obviously, once Pistone figured out the whole thing with the Zips and all that, the FBI might know and everything, but they're not going to compromise Pistone's.
Right.
They're not going to compromise. His
Never.
whole,
Too big of an investigation. Never.
Exactly. And by the time they discover, that stuff. By the time that happens, I think he was, I want to say 3 years into it by then.
Right.
And the original investigation wasn't supposed to, go on, for that long. Originally, they wanted to just go after truck hijackers. They weren't trying to, go after, they weren't expecting, I should say, they weren't expecting for Pistone to get
Get the crew. Right, exactly.
Exactly. So here we go.
But in fact, by now, there was a far more serious threat to Pistone's life. Tony Mira, Pistone's first contact in the Mafia, was released from jail and furious that Pistone was earning money from Sonny Black and Lefty. He wanted revenge.
Well, you have to remember, there's a lot of jealousy and envy in the mob. Mira gets out of jail, and he's jealous because he thinks I'm making a lot of money.
So that's absolutely the truth, right? So Gene, go ahead.
That's how it goes. You know, he comes out, he feels like Donnie was with him. Now it becomes a whole little soap opera beef. You know, this is what they do. Start plotting on each other, same bullshit.
Yeah, so exactly. If you met in your earliest days, obviously your family, was involved, so it's a little bit different. But let's say you hadn't had family, blood relatives involved. You were just, a guy coming up in your neighborhood, and you were an earner, and you met 2 or 3 guys about the same time. They would be arguing over who gets to collect from you.
Absolutely.
They would be arguing. They're like, "Hey, I own Gene Morello. No. You own. No, you could have this guy."
And because I'm real close to Sonny Black, so he goes and he goes to his captain and says that I should be with him.
He raises a beef. He makes it clear that, he's like, "Hey, this is our guy. I was in prison the last couple of years, and now Brasco is doing all this money stuff with Lefty and Sonny Black." And so he goes to his captain because, his captain's reaction is going to be, "Wait a minute. You mean that big earner is supposed to be with us?" And, that's when they're going to start fighting for him. Start fighting for the ownership of him, so to speak.
And not Lefty, because he's the one that brought me around.
But Sonny, keen to keep his cut of Pistone's earnings, was reluctant to pass him back to Mira.
Mira goes to Sonny, and Sonny says no.
No.
Mira then took his complaint a stage further and called for the other capos to arbitrate the decision. Lefty and Sonny were called on to defend their claim on Pistone in a series of meetings.
So basically, let the folks know if there's the meetings are called sit downs, and if they're arguing over who owns Brasco, what's typically going to happen, Gene?
So basically, it'll come down to a ruling, who's on record with what's right, what's wrong, and they'll come to a ruling. And whatever the ruling is, that's what happens.
And it's typically good. It's going to be a group of captains and others that aren't involved with the particular guy.
I don't really believe what they're saying. That I think Donnie Brasco's exaggerating it. It's not going to come down to it. It's not going to be no major sit down. It's just going to be one skipper, a soldier, one skipper and a soldier. It's not going to be all the capos, and they're going to work it out. It's not going to be no big thing. Donnie Brasco isn't fucking making them $80 million here. You know what I'm saying? So, things are being exaggerated. I mean, he made some money, but I don't think it wasn't a big fight like he's saying over it. You know what I mean? It's just going to be a simple sit down, and that's it. Sonny Black's more powerful, more respected. He's going to win. Probably that's what's going to happen,
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Exactly. And plus, the train was already out the station. They'd been doing this for years already.
Right.
And I don't think that these higher level guys are going to just say, well, now we're just going to switch it all up. You guys have been doing business, and, he's been part of your guys' crew for, this whole time. So, they're going to have him stick it out with them.
Right.
Lefty would phone Pistone after each one to let him know what was happening, and Pistone would secretly record their conversations.
Hey, Donnie, let me tell you something. I had a 4.5-hour meeting about you today. For what? Donnie, don't say for what. Well, Left, you say don't say for what. How do I know? I don't even know what you're talking about. I won you, and I'm going to keep you. Well, that's right. right? I'm not giving you up, and so is Sonny. We own Donnie, and we give it up Rocky. Now you give up my prick, I said. I warned you, I'm not giving you up. I die with you. Well, how does Sonny stand tonight with us? What he said? He's not giving you up. Not giving you up. Ain't nobody having you. Hey, I don't want no part of Mirror.
Sonny Black and Lefty won and got to keep Pistone as their own.
So he figures, well, if I can't have him, nobody's going to have him. So then what Merritt does is he puts in a beef with all the captains that I stole $250,000 in a drug deal. You know, that's a no-no. You don't steal money from the family.
The severity of the accusations demanded a series of high-level meetings or sit-downs. A sit-down was, in effect, a trial.
Now, do you believe this part here that,
No.
he was accused by Mira?
Yes. No, I believe that, but it's very hard. You know, you can't just go say he stole from the family. That's an automatic death sentence. But I mean, the way he's elaborating on it, some big sit down with all captains. I mean, they might just tell him that so he feels more important. Like, oh, you know, we had this big beef over you, you know, everything to make him feel like, you know, because they just want his money. I don't think it was as I think he's embellishing a lot.
Hey, you know, there back in that time, there was, you know, the FBI didn't even have a protocol for how to do undercover investigations. Right. Pistone was doing this on the seat of his pants. We're going to finish up this part here, and since we're hitting just past the hour point,
I got to take a call in like 15 minutes. So
we'll conclude it there, and we'll do a part 2 with this after that. So we'll just there's like 2 more. There's like a minute of this, and then we'll conclude this one.
High-ranking mobsters from the Bonanno family in New York, including some of the Sicilian Zips, and Bonannos from far away as Canada, were called in to judge the accusations leveled at Pistone. If Pistone were found guilty, he would be executed immediately.
Rocky admitted that you made $250,000.
Who did Rocky tell that to?
Anthony Mirror and his men, don't you?
Yeah, Anthony Mirror and his men. That Ruggiero probably shouldn't have said that on a phone like that, but he was pissed. he was pissed that Pistone asked him.
Well, this guy's a lying son of. He's a lying son of. He's lying, Left.
If I have a feeling if he was talking to you, you would have been like, you jerk off. I can hear a little bit of Gene Borello in Lefty's voice, bro.
I don't give a fuck. He's a liar. I never cut any junk money up with him. Why don't fucking count? Why does this guy want to, he wants you bad. So what do we do now? I don't give a fuck. But you can't afraid of anybody. You can't help me.
I'm not afraid of anybody. Yeah, you got the FBI behind you.
Without you. And I ain't afraid of Mirror either. When's this thing all going to end with this? It ain't going to end.
Sonny spent 3 hours fighting for Donnie. Eventually, his life was spared. Pistone may have survived the sit-down, but he had made a serious enemy of Tony Mirror. The FBI were concerned the operation was becoming too dangerous.
And they considered pulling him out. So we'll end it right there. Real quick, Gene. Put me and you back on the screen here. So we'll do a part 2 because that's about the halfway point with the videos. And with the part 2, it's going to get into the takedown of Carmine Galante and how that played into the whole situation with Bruno and Delicato. We've got footage of him actually, kind of hugging on Neil Delacroce because there was a faction of the Gambinos and a faction of the Bonannos together to get rid of Carmine. Carmine Galante wasn't too liked.
No.
He was feared, but wasn't liked.
Right.
So add in anything you'd like to add in real quick, my friend.
Like I said, you can purchase my book on Amazon. If you want an autographed copy, DM me on my Instagram, and go check out my TikTok. It's going viral. I put up little short stories.
Awesome, awesome. Sub to the channel, sub to the other channel. Obviously, this will be our focus though, because the other channel we could tell had a shadow issue, and I'm not even gonna say the word, but
Right.
whatever. But even you know what though, even with that shadow issue, Gene and I are we're hitting like 8,000 views on one or two of these videos,
Right.
and you know, fighting against a shadow issue and doing that well is pretty good. So this channel is definitely going to be blowing up. We've got like 55 to 75 new subs in just the first week after we did that one.
Right.
And with 600 subs at the time, that first video has like 2,500 views,
Mhm.
which, that's more than 4 times the number of subs. That would be like on the other channel getting 10,000 views of videos. So it's all good. It's all good.
Yeah.
We're going to end
We're
up
rocking.
building this.
We'll build it.
And, we're killing it. You guys love it. We love it. And hit the like button, share, subscribe, ring the bell. And for those of you who are haters out there that have tried to lie on us, we're setting the record straight. We're handling things. You guys
Right.
are being exposed. And no, you do not know who necessarily knew your father or your brother or whoever
Right.
else. You can't say so and so didn't know him. You know, when John A. Light and others say that they were close with Gotti Sr., only A. Light, Gotti Sr., and a few others would know the exact relationship. That's the way it works when you're in a secret society, what used to be one.
Right.
All right, you guys. Hey, Gene, thanks for joining me. I'll chat with you in a few minutes when we get done here.
Yeah.
Thank you guys. Hit the like button on your way out, and we will announce in advance the next time that we do a video drop and or a live stream. Thanks.